Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming this afternoon to Rightsizing from the Inside Out. This has been a year-long monthly we put on here at Big Rocks, and we literally started from the inside with our needs and our values and worked our way outside. And today we're going to talk about rightsizing your holidays. So I hope that this will be fun and interactive and that you get to take away some great ideas to reduce the stress and really make your holidays right-sized and meaningful for you. All right, shall we jump right in? Minda, did I forget anything? You're always my voice of reason here. Okay. All right. Sorry, so just a quick refresher on right-sizing, because I think we have some new faces here today, and right-sizing is still a term that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. I know a lot of us have heard of the term downsizing. Well, here at Big Rocks, we like to flip it to the positive. So instead of like focusing on downsizing, which evokes feelings of loss and a lot of negative emotion behind it, right-sizing is something that you can focus on the positive. What do you want to keep in your life? What's most important to you? So just a refresher. So right-sizing is actually, it's a process. It's not an event. It's not a destination. It's always a journey that we're on. And it looks different for each of us. So maybe right-sizing for me is having, I'll just say, 40 Christmas trees in my house, but maybe right-sizing for you might be one tiny desktop tree if you celebrate Christmas. So it really can look different for everybody, and there's no right or wrong. And CJ Ware, she's the author of Rightsizing Your Life, Simplifying Your Surroundings and Keeping What Matters Most. She defines it as this: it's a conscious, practical, and psychological evolution in the way one lives one's life. It will liberate you from many real-life burdens and free you in ways you cannot now imagine. So even just by going through this process, it can create this transformation from the inside out as we've been on this journey this year. And right-sizing doesn't just apply to physical stuff. You can right-size your calendar, your relationships, friends, commitments. There's so many different, you could right-size basically any aspect of your life and really distill things down to what's most important to you. Any questions about right-sizing or any other thoughts or insights you want to add? Okay, and feel free to just unmute yourselves and just speak up, or if you put up your hand, Minda's going to keep an eye out for it, because Minda, I can't always see everybody with the presenter screen going too.
Right-sizing sounds like a great idea.
Oh, thanks. We like to think so at Big Rocks, and that's always the term that we use when we're working with clients, rather than downsizing, focusing on the positive and how can we improve our lives? How can we right size? Sorry, I keep skipping ahead too much here. So this is our roadmap for today. I just thought we could talk about different aspects of the holidays and different areas that we could consider right-sizing. Traditions, travel, food, parties, and other commitments, family, cards, decorating, gifts, spiritual practices, expectations, and then I wanted to end on permissions. So there's probably other things too that I've forgotten here, but there's just so much that we could talk about with the holidays. So we'll try to touch on all these topics, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you and what is a right-sized holiday for you. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to grab pen and paper or your tablet or taking notes in your phone, whatever is most comfortable for you. Go ahead and write things down. So my goal is that by the end of our time today, you'll have this outline for what are your right-sized holidays. And then when things get really crazy and you have all these pressures on you and people wanting your time and commitments and asking you to do things, you can go back to your list from today and just recenter yourself and say, hey, this is how I defined my right-sized holiday. This is what I want my holidays to look like. and you can go back to that to ground yourself. So please do take some notes for yourself. Okay, so this is kind of two different holidays here. If everybody could see those. One thing to keep in mind too is, how do you want your holidays to feel? Do you want to feel like the picture on the left-hand side? Pretty calm and chill? Or do you want to feel like the gentleman on the right-hand side?
Left.
Yeah, that's what I'm voting for too. Definitely. I think sometimes it's easy to forget how we want to feel in a certain situation, and that can be a really helpful reminder, again, to help ground us and help bring us back to what does right size look like for us? What are our big rocks? What are our goals? All right. So, sorry, I keep moving heads around here. The first topic I just wanted to kick it off with is traditions. I'm curious for you, what holiday traditions are most important to you? What do you want to keep this year? Maybe there's some other traditions too that you want to let go of. So I'm really eager to hear from you. Anybody have one they want to share?
I think COVID kind of threw the traditions out of whack. So some of the things that I traditionally would have done, I didn't do. And now I'm like second guessing myself and thinking, okay, did I just do them because I just did them and because everybody expected it? Or did I really enjoy doing it and should I do it again? Like, for instance, that I typically make homemade candy, and and everybody, I think last year my stepson's like, you didn't make any homemade candy this year. I'm like, well, I mean, like, we're quarantined. I'm like, I'm sorry I didn't make you the homemade marshmallows. So sorry. But yeah, so this year it's like, okay, do I want to do that? Because I know this year they'll expect it. So
yeah. No, that's a really great example. I want to come over to your house for candy.
A few years ago, I don't even know how many years ago now, we started doing seafood on Christmas Eve, like a huge seafood fiesta. And that's definitely one thing I'm keeping.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Anybody else have traditions that they'd like to share? Or maybe you've been able to be creative and you have to tweak your tradition due to COVID, but you're still able to celebrate it or to make it happen in some kind of way, some fashion.
One thing my family started last year was on Christmas night, we ordered Chinese takeout, which was really because I didn't want to cook, and that felt too stressful for me at the end of the holiday to have to prepare a prime rib. And so I said, I think what would feel good to me is ordering 5 or 6 dishes from a Chinese place. And we called ahead and they were open, and we felt a little like, do we want to promote restaurants being open on Christmas? But at the end of the day, it's something that we're going to keep.
That's great. Take the stress off yourself. You're also supporting a small business and making things easy for your family. And maybe that business people don't celebrate Christmas there. So for them, it's good to be open and have that business. Yeah. Helen wrote in the chat that she watches a Christmas Eve movie with her oldest kiddo. That sounds like fun. Tammy goes to Christmas Eve church service. And Bill's wife is a Christmas Eve baby, so they have a nice dinner for her. That sounds lovely.
So in one of our Christmas Eve dinner traditions years ago was fondue. So yummy. But then our oldest son didn't like cheese, so we swapped it out for, I think, German food instead. But this year he says we could do fondue. So I'm excited about that.
You're going to bring it back.
You're going to bring it back. And then another kind of what I'm mulling and tradition wise is we kind of ended up having to have 2 separate Christmases because my mom would end up always causing some issue when we all got together with everyone else and, you know, kind of ruined Christmas. And then now we realize we don't have to do that since she passed away in January. So it's a, oh, well, then what do we do? I don't know. So that's a mull. Haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I know a lot of us do have multiple holidays with different parts of the family. We're going to talk about family and gatherings a little bit later on. So hopefully you're writing down your favorite traditions. And two, is there anything that anybody wants to let go of that has been a tradition? Okay, well, we'll keep diving in here. So the next topic up is travel. I'm curious, I know that some people are comfortable traveling right now, some people are not. It depends on where you're going and how you're getting there. So how do you feel about the holidays and travel, and what's right-sized travel for you?
We've made it a conscious decision not to travel during the holidays. So we don't.
Nice.
And travel for me personally is still a little bit tricky in that I'm not doing it. But my husband and daughter have been traveling, but we're all going to be home for the holidays.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, just eliminate the stress altogether and just say, I'm not going to travel.
Yep. And we're fortunate enough not to have to travel too. So there is that.
Right, because your family's all here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And just going back to our previous topic, Helen wrote that she's going to let go of too many gifts from other people as a tradition. And we're going to talk about gifts more later on too. So thanks for sharing that, Helen. So I'm curious, is anybody going to be traveling during the holiday season? Would you normally travel if it weren't COVID? No, okay.
Bill says that only within a couple of hours, maybe a cabin in the woods, Airbnb at the coast. Before fires would be Brighton Bush.
Ooh, nice.
And Helen is just up to Seattle by car.
So pretty local. Okay, good. Because yeah, I know traveling is a lot more complicated these days. And I think we're supposed to set another record for the number of people who are hitting the road in their cars for this Thanksgiving coming up. So that's going to be interesting. And Erin says that she's staying home this year, and a smiley face. Oh, yeah, our family's staying home too. I do have a cousin coming in from Texas, so we'll talk about guests later on too. And Bill says air travel is a pain now, exclamation point. Yes, agreed. Definitely. Well, let's see what other areas we can right size. So parties and other social events and commitments. And then now, of course, we have this added layer on top of these parties and invitations for social commitments of different safety considerations. So I'm curious, how are you deciding what events to go to, what events to host, if any? And are you going in person? Are you going virtually? Are you talking about safety with people before you go to these things? So I'm curious how you're approaching this. And Sue says that there's still a high COVID rate in Southeast Pennsylvania and only local family visit. Thanks for sharing that, Suze.
I'll
We're
jump in and
talking
share
to
some.
people about it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I haven't decided that. So I think it's great that you brought it up. I did go to a Halloween party. And I tried to sort of ask the host, like, is it going to be outside? Is it going to be inside? And I know, like, for my book club, I'm hosting it in my garage. I don't know if would someone have a holiday party in their garage? I'm not sure. I haven't been invited to one yet, but
I think why not?
I think
That sounds like a good idea.
I think you bring up an important point, though, because just like with the mask mandate still in place, I could see myself going to a holiday party wearing a mask. But then again, if you're having food and beverage, you can't really wear a mask while you do that. I mean, you certainly could just take it off while you're actively eating and then continue to wear it. But I think it just brings a question mark up of how that will go.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, I've been invited to quite a few holiday parties for different networking groups and events, and just not comfortable doing that yet in person. I think if we had our third booster, maybe like that could change feelings for people as well. But yeah, like for example, for my situation, my mother-in-law is staying with us recovering. Careful about going out into the world and trying to keep her safe. And we have some comments in the chat. Wherever or however many people I will see masked when I don't feel safe. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly, Bill. You can correct me here. And then Bill's getting his booster on the 22nd. That's awesome.
Yeah, because not only is you like, well, how many people are vaccinated, how people aren't, and how frequent does your community wear the mask or not? Because I was at a gathering this weekend. It was family. It was outside, and then in a big space, most of them weren't wearing the mask, and we weren't eating, and it was like, oh, wow.
And Harold writes in the chat, only close, fully vaccinated family. Yeah, and we all have different, variety of feelings around masks and vaccines and comfort levels. So, talking about it ahead of time, I think is always a good idea. Helen says, we're talking about it, mostly curious how people are acting and how safe they are being. Yeah, that's a good point. For my family, since my cousin is coming in from Texas, like even though he's fully vaccinated, he's going to be on a plane with like 200 people and we don't know where they've been. So what our family's done is we've ordered some at-home COVID testing kits, and we're all going to test the morning of Thanksgiving and then, have a potluck at my mom's house. And we're going to be wearing masks when we're not eating or drinking. So and we're going to have, doors and windows open. So that's kind of the solution that we're going to try this year. So I'm curious if other people have different ideas or different strategies.
I'm just going to be with, oh, go ahead, Stacey.
No, that's like, it's fine. I just said I don't have any other strategies, but I think what your approach is pretty good with Whitney. I mean, it sounds, like you're trying to be as safe as possible. So
yeah, I have to give credit to my brother, though. It was his idea. Claire, what were you going to say?
I'm again pretty lucky that my family is small. So it's just, for the most part, my husband, my daughter, and my mom. So, and we've been in the bubble the whole entire time. So it's an easy, like, oh, we're going to go to her house, or that she's going to come over, or whatever. So, again, lucky that way. And we've all been vaccinated. My daughter got her first vaccine on Sunday.
Oh, that's great.
Totally off topic, sorry.
No, that's a relief. Like my niece and nephew, they just got their first vaccine too. So they won't be like fully vaccinated before Thanksgiving, but at least they've had the one dose. And I think it helps all of us like have our minds more at ease. Yeah. All right. Well, if you at any point in time have any other thoughts about any of these topics, like just feel free to jump in. And with that, I had to put these yummy pictures of food in here. So I'm curious what your holiday foods are. You know, what are the ones that you want to keep, that you want to make? Like I know Stacy might bring back her homemade candy this year. Minda, you do a German dinner, is that right?
We often do. Yeah, and they, you know, it's multi-generations kind of adding to it, but it's all homemade and it's quite lovely. My family spent a lot of time in Germany, and my husband's family also has spent time in Germany, so it works out well.
I was going to jump in with a thought. I don't do this, but my neighbor shared with me that they do this, just kind of in the school of thought that you kind of, there's so much food around the holidays and like pacing yourself with food. My next door neighbor said that on Christmas night, they do soups. They have like a soup potluck with their family, and then they just get really nice bread from like a bakery that's special to them. And that's kind of how they finish off the holiday. And I already shared that we did Chinese food and that was lovely, but I do think maybe if you're looking to go down the hill of already eating a lot of heavy food, that the soup idea would be nice.
That's a great idea. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
It's a great idea. I actually, my mom is a Christmas baby. So throughout my life, when I was a kid, we would do like the dinner on the 24th, and then the day of Christmas, we would, since it was her birthday, we'd be celebrating her birthday, right? You know, after we opened all the presents and all that stuff like that. So and then I married my husband, who is from Mexico, and traditionally in Mexico, they celebrate the 24th, the evening of the 24th through, you know, past midnight. So it's just something that we perpetuated. And so that what we do is we get together the evening of the 24th for dinner. Usually, you know, we'll do a prime rib or, you know, something like that. And then the next day, then, you know, my stepson and his family can kind of do their own thing for Christmas. My son and his wife can do their thing for Christmas. And this year we have my mom with us. So we actually might twist that up a little bit or have cake after midnight. We haven't decided, but there will be cake involved no matter what.
Cake is good anytime.
Exactly. So yeah, but we traditionally have always done the meal then on the 24th, and then on the 25th it's just kind of eating whatever leftovers we have from the night before.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? I'm curious about your food traditions and what you want to keep. You know, last year so traditionally with our family, my spouse and I have had surf and turf on Christmas Eve night, and just had both of our moms and maybe a few friends, kept it pretty small. And then Christmas morning, my mom hosts a brunch, and then we would go to Christmas dinner at my sister-in-law's mother's house, and there'd be like a huge group of 30 people there. So it was just kind of like a lot of food in a short amount of time, right? Or sometimes, some years we used to have a round robin, like where we go to, you know, one aunt's house for appetizers, and then another person's house for the entree, and then you got to see everybody's holiday decorations, and it would kind of be this progressive meal, and that was fun too. But again, you end up, there's a tendency to end up eating a lot. So last year with COVID, we just dialed it way back, and we just did Christmas dinner with our moms essentially, and kept everything, you know, really simple, I think, by default. So in a way, it's almost been a silver lining in some respects to hit that restart button, to be able to consciously think about, you know, right sizing, what do we want to keep moving forward. Anybody else have any food related things they want to share?
Bill is talking about how his wife loves game hens. Yeah, we had Cornish game hens one year. And for Hanukkah, potato pancakes, latkes, am I pronouncing it right? Of course, and we are a mixed family. Yeah. Multiple traditions. And Whitney, by you describing about the kind of progressive dinner, it's connecting me, like as Stacy said, you know, COVID has kind of changed things. You kind of forget like what you did before. And now I'm remembering, hey, so before COVID, my brother-in-law lives in Colorado. My dad lives on the coast. And so what we would do a few days before Christmas with him visiting is all the adults would go, we'd take a part of Portland and then hit up the different brew pubs in that area. So Old Town, one year we did like all over, and we were driving all over. But we kind of figured out that Old Town has, 4 or 5, and Southeast Portland has 4 or 5, including a gluten-free one. And, we would hit different parts of Portland and go to brew pubs, which before we had kids, we had been to all of them. But once we had kids, we barely got out. And we had learned with my brother-in-law that he really likes IPAs, and I'm not an IPA person. So it was great for flights, because then we would kind of share, and different people would like different beers and kind of finish that part. And then we'd eat along the way, and it was really nice. But yeah, we haven't done that for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some breweries that do deliver flights. You could.
We could. I mean, yeah, we're not lacking in alcohol in this house.
Yeah. It's a little different though, that experience of like actually getting out and being in the atmosphere of a brew pub.
Yes.
Without the kiddos, maybe. And Harold wrote that he's kind of liking the Chinese takeout idea. So thanks for sharing that, Tammy. Hey, anything else related to food? All right. Well, let's talk about family. I know we've touched on this a little bit. For some of us, maybe we haven't been able to travel to see our family, or maybe we've been seeing them virtually, or maybe our definition of family is kind of tightened down. We're not really seeing extended family, but maybe just nuclear family. So I'm curious how your family is going to be approaching the holidays.
It'll be interesting this year. We lost my dad last December. So when my mom's already started decorating for Christmas, even though we haven't hit Thanksgiving yet. And so I was over there the other day, and she was kind of putting some stuff out, and then she like got out the tree, and I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I don't know. I have to decorate. Because we readily admit that we don't really remember what happened last year for Christmas, because it was just all kind of a blur. So we're kind of, again, doing a reset this year and trying to figure it out, how it's going to be different.
Nice. I'm glad that you get to hit the reset button. And it's different after losing a loved one. The holidays definitely change. Maybe sometimes, as Minda, as you shared, it might make things a little easier. And other times, yeah, there's that sense of loss and sadness, or perhaps mixed feelings of both. Anyone else have thoughts on how they're approaching holidays with their family? Maybe you've got family that are insisting on coming to see you too, and that might not feel comfortable. It took my family quite a while to wrap our heads around having our cousin come from Texas. We love him dearly and love to see him, but haven't seen him since pre-COVID, and a little bit nervous about having someone come and stay in one of our homes. Okay, well, we'll jump forward to the next one. If you think of anything, just holler. All right, cards. Curious, who sends out cards each year, and who enjoys that, and who would like to let it go, or maybe you want to modify it? Okay, I see a lot of hands, a lot of card senders. Yeah,
I love to receive them, but I'm not really good at sending them.
And that's okay.
My husband loves making cards every year. And even last year he wrote a poem. Like I was just like, oh my God. But I do not like stuffing the cards and sending them and like licking them because I'm the licker too. I know there's like things that you can do with the sponge and things, but that just seems like too much work too. So I'd be happy to let him go, but he really enjoys it. So
It's tough with like my spouse really loves to send cards too and write the holiday letter and put the pictures in and then print them in color. And it's a lot of work and trying to write that. So for me personally, I would like to let them go or simplify them a lot. We're still trying to find that common ground and that compromise. Curious about other folks too. If you have any other ideas surrounding cards. Or maybe
I'll share something.
Yeah.
I send a lot of cards out. My husband sends them to his entire client base, but because we also send them to our friends and it's not really in his assistant's job description, I end up doing the whole thing. And I have learned throughout the years to start early, because what I found is that you can still go on to like Costco.com or Shutterfly or whatever place you might, if you want to do a custom card, you can still customize that. I don't know when they release like their templates, but they're up there, I think year round, at least Costco.com is. And someone shared with me, just do it in the fall, after the kids go back to school and you don't have as much on your plate, because my family also has 2 December birthdays. And then that will just kind of all come to a head for like planning a birthday party for kids and things like that, and then having to get all this secretarial work, it feels like, done. So I guess my only strategy is to start early and try to simplify it as far as doing like a label run. I think there was one year where I just hand addressed them all and it was just excruciating. I didn't even know what I started when I started it. But I agree, I have to wonder how long the tradition of cards will continue, because so much has moved to online. About like, I do have a friend in Alaska and she just mails it or just emails it. And her tagline is always like, I'm saving one more trip to the post office. And she still has the photos and everything in there. And it's just a different format to get it in. And I like it. It's still, my heart still smiles when I get it from her every year.
Nice. And she's saving trees too, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. We have a client at Big Rocks. She sends her card every October for the following year. So like this past month, she sent it for 2020. And she just does that because then she just takes the pressure off herself completely around the holiday time and can focus on family and enjoying that time with family. And then, yeah, and some people do it in like July, Christmas in July type of thing. Yeah. I'm curious too if anybody's maybe thought about like simplifying their list and sending them to fewer people, or are these people that you see on a regular basis, or are they people that you're really, this card is your annual one-time contact with them? I'm curious about that.
I can just only ask you a question back, Whitney, because I've contemplated this long and hard. If like I was in a mom's group with someone 4 years ago and I haven't seen them, I don't feel like I should send them a card. But then if they send one to me, would I be obligated to return it back? That's what my hang up is. There's probably some people who I'll still get it from, and I think that's great and I like them, but I haven't seen them throughout the year and I just don't know if I should try to close the book and not send it back.
I think it's tough to make that call for sure. I've had some years where I printed a certain amount and I ran out. And then if I got a card from somebody else I hadn't sent one to, I either texted or emailed or picked up the phone and called them and said, hey, I got your card. Thank you so much for that. I'm not doing them this year. And there have been some years that I've skipped, and it was just nice to make that reconnection with them. So I guess that's one way that that I've handled it, Tammy. I know it probably doesn't 100% address your question, but I think it's something that we all struggle with.
I think it's the same with like gifts, right? I mean, in the job I used to have, it was always okay, who do I give the gifts to? Right? The people that report to me, the peers that I work with, but there's always like this level of, okay, do I give it to this person or not? Or I really like this person, I'll give it to them. But then there's 2 other people on their team. Are they going to get offended? And so it ends up becoming like this, like, oh my God, drama. And then it just becomes a mess. Now that I've gone into real estate and that's my new career path, I probably am going to start doing cards and being more consistent with them next year once I have more clients right, on my list. But it's the other thing of, okay, now how do I approach this? And now the more clients I get, what am I going to get? Am I going to give them a gift? And how do I stay top of mind with them? And things like that. So it'll be interesting. I feel like I'll probably end up feeling the same way I did in my previous job in a couple of years when I have so many people I know and so much stuff going on in my new industry that I'm in, that I'll be driving myself crazy then. So this year I'm going to take it easy and not have to worry about it.
That sounds good. But hopefully you won't be driving yourself crazy in a couple of years. Like maybe if you can dial in for you, what is enough?
Right.
What are your big rocks? Like who are the people that you treasure the most that you want to reach out to? We'll try to keep it right size so it doesn't spiral and become a resentful burden, Yeah, that's tough. And we'll talk about gifts here too, just a sec. Anything else about cards? Any other ideas or thoughts? I am catching up on the chat here. Yeah, so let's share these ideas here. Okay. So when we were talking about family, Bill writes, his only other family is there, and his aunt and her man friend, and it's very low key, and everyone else is on the East Coast. So sometimes that distance simplifies things, doesn't it? And then Helen says that for years when we feel like it, we have fun and we make them funny, assuming this is in relation to the cards. And then Suze will talk about the gift wrapping process in a little bit here. Harold uses send out cards. So he's delegating his card sending service and he sends them to all of his client base and family. That's nice. Good idea, Harold, outsource. And Bill says that he's like Harold, he mostly sends cards to clients. And then going back to the gift wrapping, Claire offered a suggestion to Suze is that as you buy things, wrap them the same night and hide them. Small sessions will keep you sane, winky face. And then going back to cards, Helen says that she revisits her list every year to see who she wants to send them to. And Suze writes, years ago, one really hot August day, I was looking for something sedate to do on the back porch. I dressed my Christmas cards. Early December, I only had to make sure no one had divorced or passed away. Loved it. That's a great idea, Suze. And Bill writes, maybe I'm a Scrooge of sorts, but since I retired in quotes and no longer in an office, I don't miss the forced gift exchange. Organic, yes. Oh, thanks for sharing all your thoughts, everybody. We can dive into gifts and then come back to decorations. Does that sound good? I think gifts are kind of a hot topic and one of those things that, again, it's hard to figure out, how far out do you go with that? So I'm curious.
Well, since my family is relatively small, we decided not to do gifts probably about 15 or 20 years ago. Because we're all lucky enough to have jobs, all of that. And I can buy what I want. So really for us, it's more about spending time together than it is about the gifts. Like we still give gifts to our daughter, obviously, because she's 9, so she loves gifts. But yeah, as far as it goes, you know, for us, we just take the hassle out of gift giving, and it creates a very nice open space to then really enjoy each other.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Claire.
Absolutely.
My husband and I have not given each other gifts for 15 years or more. I mean, we've been married for 33 years. So, you know, and it's one of those things, it's such a relief to not have to figure out what to buy him this year for anything. And then it's challenging too, because then, you know, the kids are asking, well, what should I get, you know, my dad for Christmas? And I'm like, I have no idea. He has everything. When he wants something, he buys it. Right. So it's, you know, becomes a challenge. So he tries to come up with ideas and thoughts for them to give them. So it makes it easier for them to give gifts to him. So, and then he just makes me decide what kind of gifts to give to the kids. So, and the grandkids, he's like, oh yeah, you decide. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's the emotional labor. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, and this year too, you know, we have the added complication of shortages or shipping times. You know, things might not make it here in time for the holidays. So we've got some new things to think about. Tammy wrote in the chat, I have to run, but wanted to share. Last year, my uncle set up a 40-minute Zoom for our extended family. It was really fun to see and chat with some of my cousins who I hadn't seen in a long time. I want to keep this going. Thanks for the ideas. Well, thanks, Tammy, for sharing that idea. That's a really cool one. That's a nice gift and doesn't cost anything. And our family too, years ago, we stopped doing gifts for the adults and we focus on the kids and try to focus on an experience or something we can do as a family. Last year, I ended up giving them a gift certificate to do a horse riding lesson because they've never been on a horse. So just trying to give them a new experience. And then contributing money to their college fund, which probably doesn't make me the fun auntie, but it's very practical, you know, and hopefully they'll appreciate it down the road.
Hey, Whitney, just curious, where did you do the horse riding lessons?
Yeah, it's called Once Upon a Horse.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. Okay, thank you.
There's also a camp out in Washington County. I could look that one up too, but it's a week-long summer camp.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and it's for girls your daughter's age. I think it's like maybe $275 for the week, and they get to learn all about horses and how to take care of them. And so, yeah.
Total side note, we did our first trail ride this last summer in Sun River. So,
oh, fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We've also gone out to Malala. There's a train area. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on what it's called, but there are these model trains, but they're big enough that you can actually ride on them. So this was pre-COVID, but I think they did reopen during COVID, and it's a nonprofit. It's all volunteer run, but it's fun. You can go and take a family picnic and then ride the trains. So that's something to do if you have younger folks in your life too, or even not younger folks. My mother-in-law rode the trains, and she was 100 at the time. We just had somebody in front and somebody behind, so she didn't fall off the train. She had a good time. Any other ideas maybe for experiences or ways that you've come up with to handle the gift giving pressures?
Another thing that I've been thinking about is letting, you know, like just people in general know what organizations I donate to. I'm only doing one right now, but I have another one on my list for December to kick that off. So donations, you know, that you feel like you believe in, people can believe in it too. And then maybe they might get hooked into it too. You never know.
Yeah, might start a movement. And we actually do that at Big Rocks too. So instead of we acquired another organizing company from a colleague in April who retired after 17 years. And she had traditions about giving Thanksgiving pies for clients, or a Valentine's gift or a holiday gift. And they were lovely traditions, but they just didn't kind of speak to our values at Big Rock. So we decided to give a portion of our profits that we have for the last couple of years. We pick a different nonprofit as a team. And so we have a quarterly donation. And so that's how we give back. And we do that in honor of our clients. So I think that can be a really lovely gesture. And like you said, Claire, kind of inspire other people to give in that way too. And just kind of as a side note, we're looking for what your favorite nonprofits are and local charities, because we're trying to choose for 2022. And so we're going to be having a vote. So everybody can vote on social media to choose the 4 that we'll contribute to next year.
And we got Bill's suggestion for the Alzheimer's Association.
I'm not surprised. It's a good one, Bill. Thank you. Helen writes, I buy things as I see them for people. It feels better and more natural to me. Yeah, that organic feeling that Bill was writing about. I ask family every year to donate or give experiences instead of gifts, but they choose to give gifts mostly. Yeah. And Helen says, if people ask me to donate, I do it. 3 exclamation points. That's awesome.
There's your first person. Yeah, it's hard when certain people's love language is buying and gift giving, and that opening, there's something physical. But yeah, as Whitney said, as an organizing company, some of our clients in our community have difficulties letting go of stuff that they may not need, and we just didn't feel the need to add to that for those who are already having decision-making difficulties.
We have some clients who have a hard time letting go of paper, so we will be emailing them holiday cards instead of sending a paper card, just so we're not adding to that struggle. Anything else in relation to gifts? Any other ideas?
What was your solution for wrapping, Whitney? Did you have a specific one, or do it as you go?
Well, I was the family gift wrapper growing up. My grandma would buy, she was a person whose love language was gifts, and she would buy piles of gifts for all of her grandkids and kids and spouses. And I would go over, I think 2 Saturdays, and I would just kind of wrap presents all day. But I loved doing it. It was kind of like an art project for me, and I was an art major in college. So maybe finding someone in your family who actually likes to do it. And then of course, not having them wrap their own gifts, but that could be something. And I think there are gift wrapping services out there too. Our family too has moved more towards using things that are reusable, like the bags, and we'll reuse the bags and the tissue paper, just so we're not putting that in the landfill every year, and trying to use things that are more recyclable, more sustainable. Helen writes, do you have any ideas on what to do with extended family giving kids so much? I'm very thankful, but we are working to raise grateful kids who are happy with what we have. That's a really good question. Yeah, and that's another reason why I try to give my niece and nephew experiences or money for college, and rather than a toy, because they get so many toys, they'll play with one for 5 minutes and then they're bored and they move on to the next. And it's like you don't truly appreciate what you have, right? So I love how you're focusing on wanting your kids to be thankful for what they have.
Yeah, that's kind of a constant conversation, Helen, from those who have had to have them. It's a gratitude, it's an appreciation, starting off, with that super positive, and then the kind of negative, and then the positive for the kid.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the kids can choose some of their gifts to give to kids who don't have any gifts for the holidays. And Claire says her daughter only gets a gift from Santa.
She writes a letter every year.
Uh-huh.
And Santa has been writing back in different handwriting every year. But my mom is the love language of gift giving. So, there is that.
Yeah.
So she's covered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So
it can be tough. I just want to give everybody permission though, like you don't have to keep gifts. that have been given to you or to your kids. I know it's easier said than done, but just know that, the gift has served its purpose by you receiving it. And then what you do with it from there is 100% your choice. Please don't feel guilty about passing it on to somebody who could maybe use it more or enjoy it more. And Sue says she loves giving to her grandkids, but they have so much. So she makes sure that she donates to Toys for Tots. That's awesome.
And my husband, for me, had allowed my kids to pick which charities the family would give in honor of me for Christmas one year. And they enjoyed that. And then I wanted to make a suggestion for the gift wrapping. Is a few years I had a lovely next door neighbor girl, and I put sticky notes on everything for the to and the from, and then I gave her a whole bunch of wrapping paper, and she wrapped them. She did the tags for me, and I gave her money.
Hey, there you go. It's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Harold writes that we stopped giving gifts to adults about 5 years ago, children only. Yeah, that's a way to kind of reel it in too. Yeah. I think gifts can be one of the trickiest parts about the holidays. Oops. There's a couple other, a few other topics to talk about too, but given our time left today, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to ask the group or that you'd like to focus on? If not, I just want to wave my little organizer wand and give you some permissions. Just a reminder for all of us that you can write yourself a permission slip for these things, or you can say that I wrote you one, whatever's easiest. You can say no to social obligations and holiday events that you don't look forward to, that it's kind of a grind, or you just feel like you have to go. Donate your time and money only to the organizations you truly want to support. Continue your self-care. I think that's something that a lot of us forget about during the holidays, and it goes out the window, and then we're stressed and we're tired, and we get to January and we just don't feel good. You have permission to set boundaries you're comfortable with in all areas, but especially in regards to your safety. You have permission to feel gratitude for what you have and to let go of comparison. You can choose the people you want to have around you. You can set your own expectations for the holidays. You can choose presents over presents. And you can choose not to send out holiday cards unless you really, 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 really love it and want to do it. You can choose not to decorate unless you love it, like Claire's mom, who's already started. You can enjoy the simple pleasures, like just a cup of hot cocoa with maybe some of Stacy's homemade marshmallows. I'm just saying, Stacy. You can also just hit that easy button and buy the dessert instead of making it from scratch. It's okay. No one's going to die if you buy the food instead of make it from scratch. And make a list of activities, gifts, donations, etc. that you want to do, make, give, and stick to your list without any apologies. And Bill writes, thank you for all this, Whitney and Minda. Happy holidays, however you observe. And Harold loves this slide. Thank you, Harold.
Harold, you will see it on our Facebook feed soon. Don't you fret.
And you can like it. Thank you in advance. We were just, before you got here, Harold, just teasing that you're so supportive of everyone on social media. And we just really appreciate you and appreciate all of you for coming. Just want to give you a sneak peek for 2022. So we're going to mix things up a bit. Instead of doing a monthly webinar or monthly event, we're going to switch to quarterly, and we're going to focus on, our theme is curiosity and courage. So they're going to be in January, April, July, and October. And the first one is going to be with Alyssa Fuchs from our team. It's on holistic time management. And she's going to talk about how do you balance your time between work, between family, and then how do you actually make your New Year's resolutions happen? How do you create a life that you enjoy and not get burnt out? So that's what we're going to be talking about. It's on January 20th, right, Minda? We're switching to Thursday. same time, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific, but we're switching to Thursdays. And then this next idea for April came from Kara Kazemba. We thank her very much. We're going to talk about blended families and blended stuff. Like, how do you combine your stuff when you have a change in your family situation? Maybe you're joining households, or your mother-in-law's moving in with you, things like that. And we're also looking for other ideas. Stacy, you shared a couple great ones, so please email us or connect with us on social media and share ideas for topics that you'd like to see in 2022. And thank you for being here. I'm just very grateful for you being part of our community and for your time today. And I wish you a joyful and a peaceful and restful holiday season.